Anyone who prioritizes strangers over a profit is getting fired. It was during a business trip. A 40-story skyscraper hotel caught on fire, and I was late for a meeting as saving a woman in a wheelchair who couldn't escape. That's why I got fired from my company today. However, I have no regrets. I'm sure if I had ignored her, I would have felt a remorse that I'll never forget every day. As I was packing up to leave the company, Tom, the director, rushed over to me. "Mr. Smith, our company's name is in the special edition of the newspaper." I could tell Mr. Smith's blood drained from his face. Not knowing what was going on, I switched my gaze to the newspaper and saw the image of the woman in the wheelchair I had saved. In the next moment, I came to understand everything. Yes, her true identity was, "My name is Sean. I am a salesperson at Smith Foods, which is a food company." Well, another tight quota this month. "Hey Peter, why are you sighing so deeply at my desk?" "Well, once I sit at my own desk, I inevitably have to start working, right? I want to escape from reality at least before work starts." "I'd appreciate you doing it at your desk if you want to escape from reality. Otherwise, I can't work." There you go, Mr. Serious. Wow, that's why you, the salespersons who are comfortably meeting their monthly quotas, are so different from us. It's just luck. Besides, I don't think I'm that serious. After convincing my colleague Peter to leave my desk, I turned on the PC assigned by the company. If you're not serious, then the whole concept of seriousness in the world would collapse. You might not realize it. That's an exaggeration, but well, maybe a bit. Honestly, I think the recent policies of our company are quite strenuous. Right? I don't know about all the complicated stuff, but lately when I go on sales, I'm often told something like, "Are your products too similar to those of other companies?" Shifting to health-oriented products is good, but honestly, the products our company has been releasing are so similar to others. There are no difference at all. Exactly. Who can meet the monthly quota like this? I want to say it to the management, but... Wait, why are you glaring at me now? Because you've achieved the quota. I just can't, you know? Sorry about that. Just kidding. Well, let's get started. I don't want to, though. While saying this, Peter finally returned to his own desk. Lately, the product line at Smith Foods where I work has been changing. It used to be a company that sold delicious food, but to ride the recent health food boom, it's like nutritional value over taste. That's fine, but as I was talking with Peter, our company sold many products that were very similar to products offered by other companies in our industry, so whether we went around to our clients or dove into new sales, the word that came back to us was the same. Are your products too similar to those of other companies? Sorry, but we already have such products in stock. It was like this. There is certainly a trend in our industry, just not as much as in apparel. The company's management has made increasing sales and reducing development costs the two core pillars of the business. This was the current situation. So, that concludes this week's sales report. In the conference room, Tom suddenly raised his voice during the regular sales report meeting in the sales department. "What is this at all? You guys could all take a page out of Sean's book a little bit. I'm sure almost all of you will miss your quota if your weekly reports are all like this." Well, that's, Are you guys even doing your job? We had a weekly meeting to share what happened during the week and report on their activities. We usually worked outside the office, but we gathered around noon for a debriefing in the conference room. However, I had been watching the company's policy as the reason why the atmosphere had been so gloomy every time lately. As I discussed with Peter this morning, the company's strategy had just changed. The products we develop are too similar to those of other companies, and our company lacks a competitive edge. The original approach would have been to present the data given by our R&D department and say, "This is the kind of product we are offering." But even that was almost no different from other companies' products. Even if we think about lowering the price due to the lack of strengths, it's not particularly affordable enough to be a strong selling point. Indeed, The reason why the entire sales department struggled to secure contracts was that there were no products that only from Smith Foods. Tom, may I speak up? Of course. Go ahead. I raised my hand, asking permission, and began to speak. I never mean to talk back, but honestly, I think it is difficult to compete with other companies for the products we are currently offering. If our products are so similar to other companies' products, we have few unique appeal points, and I feel that we will only be competing on price. What are you talking about? You're currently securing contracts, and you've accomplished this immense quota. In my case, it's because most of my clients have been lucky enough to stay out of the health food business, but such companies are becoming fewer and fewer these days, so I think it will be tough in the future, for me too. You don't have to show your clients how your product compares to other companies' products, and even if you do, you are a salesperson who must properly inform them of how your product compares to theirs, right? You guys listen. When I was young, Tom started to reminisce about his younger days every chance he got. Well, his younger days might have been tough, but the way customers think has changed between then and now. No one was able to say this out loud. The meeting ends with Tom's lengthy monologue. Thanks, Sean, you saved me. Oh, it's not that I was helping you or anything. I know you guys are working hard. Besides, I'm not sure I'll get many figures after next month. As we head back to the parking lot to continue our sales rounds, Peter talked to me. If Tom caught us stopping to talk, he would say something outrageous next time, so we exchanged a few words and then scattered back to where we were headed. Tom said when I was young, well, I wonder if my dad felt this way too. Working in a company is full of irrationality after all. My father was also a salesman. I don't remember hearing anything like a complaint from him, but anyway, he is not with us anymore. He passed away before I went to high school. So, even if doing the same job now, I never had the chance to ask him anything. Still unsatisfied with the company policy, I nonetheless diligently engaged in my assigned tasks. Until now, I have been pitching to companies we had dealt with in the past, and that has been reflected in my performance. But what happens next is uncertain. Thinking about this, I was pitching to a new client the other day. Tom called me in.
Tom, you wanted to see me? Oh yes, Sean, great job. What is it about? The major department store just contacted you and said they would very much like to talk to you about future business. They did? That's great. I'll get right on preparing for the negotiation.
I hadn't expected much from this new client at a major department store, but it seemed this might actually be going to work out this time. Recently, Tom had been looking quite discontented and was in a rare good mood as he spoke to me, although I hardly listened to most of what he said. My mind was already exploring how to proceed the negotiation. For the sake of the future, I think we need to be more careful in our business negotiations on this matter. In the evening, I'm at my laptop, pondering. Because of the business meeting Tom mentioned earlier, the client office I had made a sales pitch to was located not far from our office, but this time, the client requested the meeting to be at their headquarters, which is somewhat far from our office. Well, you know, that's how sales is supposed to be, so that in itself doesn't bother me in the least. But the meeting time is quite early. I'd prefer to arrive the day before to avoid rushing, settle in, and then head to the negotiation the next day. I'm in trouble. There are no hotels available.
Hey Sean, what's wrong? It's rare to see you groaning in front of the computer. Hey Peter, well, I've got a big negotiation coming up, but I can't find a place to stay. Wow, there you go, Mr. Excellent. While we're struggling to secure contracts, you're just sailing smoothly. Anyway, what's wrong?
While saying this, Peter peeks over at my computer.
Yeah, but now is in the middle of travel season, and the place is popular with young people, so all the reasonable hotels are booked up.
Exactly. Middle-class hotels are all gone. The only hotels that had vacancies were quite expensive ones. Well, A little luxury while on a business trip is okay once in a while, isn't it? I don't think that's an option.
It's an important business meeting, right? If so, they'll cut you a little slack. Oh, I heard that hotel is really nice. My mother and father stayed there for their wedding anniversary, and they recommended it to me. No, it's too expensive. And just click here. What are you doing? Just booking for you. What am I supposed to do? This is definitely expensive. I mean, I'm going to be pissed.
Suck it up. You should be pissed off too sometimes. Ha 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 ha.
What the heck is that? If they say anything, we'll help you out. You can go ahead and splurge a little. You're the biggest earner among us.
Peter, with a mischievous grin, has been a good friend since we joined the company. Although he can be harsh at times, I know he doesn't mean it seriously. Because he cares about me and respects me as I do him, I couldn't get angry. Instead, I started thinking about how I would explain to Tom when I got back. Several days later, I finish my travel and arrive at the hotel that Peter has booked on the spur of the moment. It took courage to enter, as I did not travel privately to get a hotel, and at most I used middle-class hotels when I was on business trips. The building was stylishly enclosed by lattices, and there was a circular driveway where cars could drive up to the door leading to the entrance of the hotel. In the center of the circular driveway was a water fountain, like a luxurious hotel. Feeling somewhat out of place, I timidly check in and am led to the room I had booked. As I got on the elevator to our room, I saw a woman in a wheelchair and I held the open button and waited for her and the man pushing her wheelchair to get into the elevator. Thank you so much. She had a very refined appearance. Yes, it would be better suited for someone like her to stay in this hotel than me. I respond briefly and then asked her, "What floor are you going to? I'll press it for you." "Oh, thank you. It's very kind of you to ask. But I am fine. I am on the same 30th floor as you." My room was on the 30th floor and I had already pushed that button. She said so, and I casually responded, "Oh, I see." After a moment of silence, the number 30 appeared on the screen display overhead and I pressed the open button again. "Thank you." After making sure that the woman in the wheelchair and the man pushing it got off the elevator while greeting me, I got off the elevator too. I checked the room number written on the key card I was given, and I started to look for the room I will be staying in. Still, so elegant and beautiful was that woman in the wheelchair. Worried I would sleep better in a different bed, but in the end it didn't matter what the bed was. I didn't sleep well because I was restless with the luxury and spaciousness of the room. As I have always led a modest life, this hotel was rather harmful to me. Too much luxury makes me uncomfortable. The bed was huge, and it even had a canopy. If I were a woman, I might be excited and went like, "How romantic." But unfortunately, I couldn't say anything other than lie. "Wow, what the?" I listened to the alarm I had set, and woke up with a firm consciousness, feeling bitter about my lack of courage as well as my poor vocabulary. I guess I have some time before breakfast. I'll get dressed and review the documents. It was a spacious room, so I talked to myself. It's partly because I was restless, but don't you sometimes feel like talking to yourself in a large room for no reason? I do. Of course, since I was talking to myself, there was no reply, and of course, not waiting for a reply, I started to get dressed right away. Then, I pulled out my materials and looked through them, organizing in my mind what I was going to talk about that day. The business meeting that day was a big one. After all, the client was a major department. They are a very well-known company with large department stores in various locations. Therefore, the order volume could be substantial. In fact, it could alleviate the pressure of quotas on everyone in the department. Thus, I need to bring my best effort to ensure the negotiation succeeds. As I was gearing up, an alarm sounded along with an announcement. "What's that?"
All guests and staffs of our hotel, attention please. This is an emergency announcement. We have detected a fire on the 30th floor. To our guests, please follow the direction of staff and evacuate immediately. Once again,
For a moment, it felt like time stopped. I couldn't comprehend what was being said at first. I was looking out the window and could vaguely see smoke that was neither gray nor black. I immediately opened the door and looked down the hallway. It seemed that many people had already started evacuating, as hotel staff were directing guests with loud voices. I quickly gathered my belongings and left the room. Not being a tourist and not planning to stay that long, I didn't have that much stuff, so I went out into the hallway with my backpack on my back. Well, let's evacuate for now, and then decide what to do with my belongings, or whatever. I was thinking somewhat comfortably like that when I heard a faint knocking sound coming from the door next to me. Knocking, from the inside. I was puzzled, but then I approached and heard a voice. "Help me, can anyone open this, please?" "Open it." I was confused by the request coming from inside the room. But anyway, let's leave the details for later. I quickly approached the door and responded to the voice inside. "Are you okay? You should evacuate now. Everyone has already started." "I can't open this door by myself. Could you please open it for me?" The urgency in the voice was clear. "I got it," I replied and opened the door. Looking in, I saw the woman in the wheelchair I saw yesterday sitting in front of the door. "Oh, I'm sorry. The door is too heavy for me to open while in the wheelchair." "Yes, I see. I'll hold the door." I was holding the door and about to say something, but my words were drowned out. I heard tremendous noise, like an explosion with accompanied by someone shouting, "Run!" It exploded. No good at all. If I tried to evacuate pushing her wheelchair, we might both end up unable to get out of here. Worst case scenario, we might not escape in time. I quickly fought and took off my backpack. "Miss, I'll carry you. Please get on my back." "But, that's..." "Just do it." "Okay." I cutting off her hesitant reply and grabbed her onto my back and rushed out of the room. Already in the distance, the visibility is only black and orange, and the corridor, which should have gone on for a long distance, is no longer visible a few yards ahead. It seemed everyone on this floor had already evacuated, as the crowd of people that was there already out of sight. "Do you have a small towel or kind of cloth?" "It's in the room." "All right, use this." Taking out a small towel that I had shoved into my pocket when I left the room earlier, I handed it to her. "We're heading to the emergency staircase nearby. The fire is on the opposite side, so we should be fine." "I see, thank you." We exchanged with minimal words, then I carried her on my back to the emergency staircase. I descend 30 floors with a woman on my back. It was a serious challenge, but we managed to make it outside the hotel. We reached to a flower bed nearby, then I gently set her down on near the edge of it. "Thank you so much for saving my life," she said with a slight trace of soot on her face and tears welling up in her eyes. "It's no big deal, really. But because of me, your belongings." "Well, I think my stuff burned up, but human life is the most important thing, so don't worry about it. Not everyone can evacuate immediately after noticing a fire. And even if I had managed to escape the fire, I couldn't leave the scene of the fire at the hotel. Though we managed to evacuate safely, it was just us. People were still evacuating at the fire site. Until the firefighters arrived, I and a few others did what we could help. It was impossible to jump into the fire, but as long as I assisted the fleeing people and did other things, I found that it was around noon. I took out my phone from my pocket after making sure the firefighters started their rescue operations. Oh my, it's already this late. Nervous to the point that my stomach churned, I made the call. In fact, I called the client with whom I would supposedly be having a business meeting at this very moment. After apologizing and explaining the situation to them, they had been a bit skeptical at first, but finally showed some concern for my safety. It seemed the news had already spread, and they believed my story. They agreed to reschedule the negotiation after my multiple apologies. I was relieved for the moment, then I decided to return to the woman who I had rescued. She seemed dazed and was watching firefighter doing their job. "Are you okay?" "Oh, you are. How can I ever thank you enough for getting me out of there?" "It's okay, really. It's good that we're both safe." "Yes. How about the others?" "I haven't heard everything from the hotel staff, but it seems like almost everyone was able to evacuate. Those who were left behind seem to have been rescued too." "That's good. Well, I should be going." "Wait, I would like to thank you properly later. May I have your name and contact number?" "No, I'm okay, that's not necessary." "Oh, I'm sorry if that was rude. I didn't save her because I wanted her to thank me. In fact, I just evacuated with her, and didn't think I had done anything extraordinary. But I couldn't stand to see her looking so down and out, so I decided to give her my contact information. After losing both my belongings and business meeting, I returned on the flight I originally booked. After much thought, I decided to stop by the office once before returning home to report what had happened. Of course, I got a new suit before I boarded the plane because it was covered in soot and was torn and burnt in some places. What happened, Sean? I apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. Apologize for what? Do you understand how important this negotiation was? Sure I do. Did you contact the client? Is there still a chance? Yes, I already apologized to them, and we mutually agreed to reschedule the meeting. Of course, damn it. Well, it's a relief at least that we haven't lost the chance to have a business meeting, by the way. Tom's gaze sharpened as he glared at me. Why did you stay at such a luxury hotel? Your decision to stay at that hotel was the start of the problem in the first place. Do you understand that? Yes, I do. This is entirely your fault. I'm going to report this to Mr. Smith, so just wait at your desk. Understood. I returned to my desk and waited as following Tom's instructions. Hey Sharon, you alright? Nothing wrong with you? I'm fine, yep, no problems here. But look at your hands, like they're all torn up. I washed them, but it just won't come off. I am not talking about your being dirty, you're bleeding. Man, seriously, hey, Sarah, get the first aid kit. It's not that big deal. It is a big deal. You should really go to the hospital, you know. Fire is, I hear it can be pretty dangerous. For some reason, my colleagues were worried about me, tending to my injuries and complaining about Tom until Mr. Smith called me in. When people around you are angry, it makes me impossible to be angry somehow. Oh well. Few hours later, I was called to Mr. Smith's office. So, you came back without doing your work. I apologize for that. What are you thinking? Your job isn't to help strangers, but to bring profit to the company. If you can't do that, there is no need for you to stay in our company. I thought he was being unreasonable. I hardly ever talk to him. We had no real connection. Because for someone like me who is a regular employee is having a conversation with Mr. Smith, which is rare. But I understood what he meant, even though I have not talked much with Mr. Smith, the company president. Then I understood what Mr. Smith just meant when he said, there is no need for you to stay in our company. Mr. Smith, so this means Sean is fired. Yes, we need people who can prioritize the profit and growth of our company. Tom double confirmed and Mr. Smith accepted. And then, my dismissal was confirmed in front of my very own eyes, in a very simple manner. End of story. You should do what you can do to the last. You have to hand over the work to someone else. I'm tempted to tell you to leave right now, but I'll give you until the end of tomorrow. Now, if you will excuse me. What the heck? I just lost my job. Leaving Mr. Smith's office, I returned to my desk. My colleagues had inexplicably gathered at around me. So, what happened? They fired me. Wait, what? That's ridiculous. You went through so much and still made it back safely. They said they don't need someone who can't prioritize the company's profits. That's insane. What is that all about? Indeed, my colleagues seemed even angrier than I was. Oh well. I had a father I was proud of. According to my mom, he was a man who didn't care much about family. But I don't remember him that way. In retrospect, my father seemed to work for the company which mistreated its employees. Even so, he still made time to spend with me. Whenever I wanted to go out on the weekend, he would take me, and even when I was being somewhat demanding, my father would grumble but still indulge me. I heard this from my mother. He always worked at home after everyone had gone to sleep, especially when he spent time with me. My mother asked my father who worked until break of dawn, "Why do you go to such lengths?" To which my father reportedly replied, "If the company, Sean, and you all need me, then I want to give my all. Of course, I'll make mistakes, pointing out and complain, but if you still think I'm needed, then I want to live for those who need me more than anything else." I never heard it from him directly, and I didn't know. But even then, I loved my father so much. I think my father passed away because of his philosophy. I believe so, but I don't know the details. There was a fire at the company where he worked. He was just returning from an outside appointment. My father rushed into the engulfed building to save a colleague who was trapped. The colleague managed to escape, but my father did not return. At my father's funeral, this colleague tearfully apologized and thanked my mom and me. We don't blame him. We don't hold any grudges. Because surely, my father did the right thing. He did what he wanted to do, and as a result, he lost his life. It's nobody's fault. But I believe my father had no regrets. How can I say this? Because that's how I feel now. Unlike my father, I didn't lose my life. But I faced a fire and was able to save someone. Even though I was fired by the company, I can proudly say I did nothing wrong. I have no regrets, so I'm sure my father didn't either. The day after I was told I was fired, I was making various preparations to leave the company. In addition to cleaning up around my desk, I handed over the existing clients to my colleagues and requested future business meetings with them. Also, I called my own clients to inform them that I was leaving the company and that another person would be taking over my responsibilities from now on. I wasn't training anyone, so it wasn't a matter of days. I could finish everything in just one day. Completed the handover and cleanup, I headed to the Mr. Smith's office for final approval of the procedures. I expected to be blamed again, which was disheartening, but I knew this would be the last time. With that thought, I knocked on the door of Mr. Smith's office and entered. Have you finished the handover and such?" "Yes, everything has been handed over. Also, regarding the meeting that needed rescheduling yesterday, I've asked Tom to take care of it." "I see. Well, if that's all done, there should be no problem. But really, I don't understand what you've been doing." "Excuse me. Isn't it obvious? You lost your job because of your own ego, trying to help others. I just can't understand it. Just endure this moment, that's all I needed to do." But it seemed impossible to bear until the end. "Mr. Smith, if I may—" "Excuse me." My words were cut off by Tom, who suddenly entered the room. "Tom, that's rude. At least not before entering." "Sorry about that. But please, look at this." Was Tom holding a newspaper? Mr. Smith was handed the newspaper by Tom with a remarkably flustered expression. He frowned as if to say what's this all about, and cast his eyes down to the paper. Silence followed for a while. Mr. Smith was now reading the newspaper that Tom had brought in with an altered complexion. Is this article true, Sean? If you're referring to this article, I haven't read it, so I'm not sure. I had no idea what he was talking about, so I just provided the answer I had. It's about the hotel you stayed at. It caught fire. It says here you were involved in the rescue efforts. Well, yes. That's why I missed the negotiation. Did you know that one of the people you saved was the business partner's daughter? What was he talking about? As I pondered, Mr. Smith finished reading the article and placed the newspaper on the table. Sean, about your disposition. What? I was fired, right? No, let's forget about that, shall we? Good for you. Wait, what? I can't understand what just happened. Why does it turn out like that? This woman here, you know her, don't you? Mr. Smith picked up the newspaper again and showed me the front page. When I looked, I recognized the woman in the picture. Oh yes, she was the woman in the wheelchair. We talked about exchanging contact information, but I had completely forgotten. This young lady happens to be the daughter of Mr. Turner of the department store you were supposed to handle. Oh, okay. With that being the case, I'm quite proud of you. Well, you did great job. I felt like he had completely flipped his stance. I let out a breath I had been holding in. Working in a company is really full of irrationality after all. No, I've heard I was fired. I would prefer to resign. Wait. I've decided to disregard this incident. The dismissal is obviously cancelled. I am afraid I really can't stay at this company. I don't want to work for someone who tells me to prioritize profit over human life. Sean, what are you talking about? It's exactly what you said. You decided to fire me, so I'll be leaving the company today. Now, if you'll excuse me. Wait, didn't you read the article? Not just her, but many celebrities were staying at that hotel, and they all spoke highly of you. Oh, okay, but it doesn't matter. It's not a reason for me to stay here. You would be a great asset to our company with your achievements. It leads to profit. So you. Mr. Smith, I have no intention of prioritizing company profits above everything else. Yes, profit is important, but I hate companies that don't think of their people as human beings. I mentioned that earlier, didn't I? Then, I will take my leave. I will never listen to Mr. Smith's orders. I left the room. Sorry for calling you suddenly. I was living a life funded by my savings after resigning. I was suddenly called by her. It was Grace, the woman in the wheelchair. No problem. I don't have much else to do. I'll treat you to a good meal tonight, she said with a beaming smile. She's quite pretty, isn't she? As I pushed her wheelchair into a barbecue restaurant, she seemed to know the owner. They greeted each other briefly before we were led to the room, which seemed to be the only private room in the place. This is my favorite restaurant. Oh, really? Please order anything you like. It's on me. No, that's really not necessary. I insist. She's still smiling, but she's kind of assertive. Deciding to follow her lead, I looked at the menu she handed me. Then she said, afterwards, I went to your former company. I wanted to thank you and discuss some business matters. Oh, I remember that. You are Mr. Turner's daughter, aren't you? You don't seem too surprised. Well, I am surprised, but, well, it doesn't really matter much to me. I see. Oh, and when I asked about you, I heard you weren't there anymore. Yes, it was because I was fired. I heard about that too. I couldn't believe it, considering the wonderful thing you did. They told me they didn't need someone who didn't contribute to the company's profits. Yes, it seemed that way, so I was a little nasty to them. I could never ask her like, "Hey Grace, don't people often say you have a scary smile?" Actually, I would lose my appetite when I was looking directly at her, so I quickly turned my attention back to the menu. "What are you going to do now?" "I haven't decided yet, but I need to start working again by next month. My savings are running out." "How about working for our company then? It's just a suggestion for now." "Are you sure? I would be very grateful if you would say so." "Of course. As a company, we want to retain as many talented people as possible." Our conversation so far had given me some kind of idea that she was competent in her own right. I thought she has made a place for herself, not as Mr. Turner's daughter, but as Grace personally. Nothing to base that on, but I was thinking about it. "Also, my father wants to thank you. He's been quite insistent. Please meet him once. Then we can discuss your job description." Haha, okay. After that, we had a light-hearted conversation that got quite lively. I was curious and asked why she was at that hotel. It turns out she lives alone away from her parents. Apparently, her parents sent her a helper or give a lift. Before visiting parents' home after a long time, she planned to stay one night at her favorite hotel. No wonder she has started coming to places like barbecue restaurants. If she was still living with her parents, she probably wouldn't even consider going to such places. "Thank you for coming today." After a delightful meal and some fine drinks, it was time for us to part ways. "Thank you for the great dinner. By the way, do you live nearby?" "No, it's a bit far from here. I'm thinking of renting a new place nearby." "Why would you do that?" "Maybe because I can spend time with you like this." "You must be joking." "Yes, I am joking." However, she told me that apparently it was true that she was looking for a potential new store location, and that she had had her sights set on this area for some time. "If that happens, you won't have to move for work, right?" "That would be nice." "Then, let's go for it." She casually mentioned moving forward with this place as a potential site. That's somewhat typical of the wealthy, I thought. Or rather, it's extravagant. "Then, I look forward to working with you." "Oh, but my father will want to meet you first." "I see. Now I've found someone to marry me, and everything's great." "You must be joking." "No, I'm not joking at all." She calmly said something awesome and left. And now, moving on to our next news. Smith Foods officially announced the facts today after a third-party organization conducted an investigation following a whistleblower's report that the company had been wrongfully dismissed. In addition, it appears that sales of products manufactured and sold by the company have dropped significantly as a result of the series of disturbances. Oh dear, that sounds serious for Smith Foods. Well, it's none of my business anymore, but look who's calling now. A phone call. Yes, from a former colleague of mine. He is a really good guy. Then let's bring him into our company. What? If Sean says he's a valuable person, then we want him to work for our company. Grace and I are doing well today,